Okay, so actions speak louder than words, and with all the actions that have been uncovered in the research regarding what happened backstage with Liam and Louis, and especially what has been documented and attributed in credible news sources regarding Louis's maneuvering and strategies of getting out of that really restricted, uh, ironclad psycho contract. So, based on everything that I have uncovered that was always there, but just finally looked into, I, number one, am more convinced than ever that Larry Stylinson is actually real and they're together. Number two, I have a different perspective based on getting sort of new information about what Louis did. Now, there is a phrase, and I believe it does come from psychology, that says that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. Another statement that does not necessarily come from psychology, but is a very helpful rule of thumb, is that actions speak louder than words. And there's two things that I want to preface. Number one, I am not against Larry Stylinson. I still think that they are an inspiration and that what was done to them in terms of the interference was wrong. And they are symbolic in a very, very important way. Number two, I also want to say that I'm not a stan. I'm not somebody who wants to see Harry is all good, Louis is all good, and so is all bad. Although unless it's Simon, I kind of think he's generally not a not an emotionally safe person to be around. But I don't know the guy. I'm just from business wise, it just seems like some people really had struggles with him. So with all that said, there's a couple of things that are very telling. Number one, stand behavior, where you want to see Harry as all angelic, or anyone is all angelic, or maybe all demonic, with the exception of Psycho Simon. That's unhelpful thinking. That's very extreme thinking, because what can happen is you don't allow a person to have uh, human failings, and you also set yourself up for being exploited if you don't want to see the bad or the not so great sides of a person. Because as much as you love someone, you might have to love them at a distance if they're unsafe. Okay, so given what I know from the documented accounts regarding Louis' genius machinations and the numerous statements that went on record about how Louis, particularly, he was protective of the other band members, but there was a real protective nuance with Harry, and that was consistently uh, consistently substantiated by people who went on record, not anonymously. So, with that said, I also want to bring in the context of how there was a disproportionate favoring of Harry Styles. And if you look at the contributions based on writing, writing of songs that were successful, Liam and Louis. Louis had 38 song credits, Liam 37. Then you had Niall Horan 22, Zayn Malik 21, and Harry came in last at 20. So that, plus the fact that if you analyze the media coverage, and Harry had to do extra PR that had him talking about things unrelated to music, but like fashion, and he became kind of a personality. He garnered 64% more media coverage that was disproportionate to the work. Now, one can argue that because he was the one who brought in the attention, he was kind of like shouldered a lot of the marketing responsibilities just as the face of the band. Yeah, that's legit. But the media began shaping a narrative. And so, what does this mean for Larry? So, what it means is I completely can see how you would literally not want to leave Louis, because Louis, in a multidimensional way, I mean, he shows up. Uh, he has people's back, and first loves, they can be seared into your brain, and especially if you bonded in a traumatic way, if you were forbidden in a traumatic way, that only fuses you together. So, if anything, I am I could not imagine Harry Styles wanting to leave Louis because, my God, who else but Louis, who consistently was, protecting him physically by being a buffer physically between the oppressive, the invasive press, as well as taking the psychological blows because Harry was really sensitive to criticism. Louis was good at anticipating, and he took it upon himself to protect Harry. He protected all the boys, but it is documented that it was something special about Harry, which that to me proves Larry Stylinson, because that is the action of a very protective boyfriend who, if you take away the gender or the cisgender of it all, think of protective boyfriends with girlfriends who are the more vulnerable. And everything Louis did lines right up. So, given the extraordinarily intense circumstances that he was doing that, I mean, my God, if you needed a knight in shining armor, there he was. Like, if anyone could write the book on that, being the hero and to the damsel in distress, who in this case was Harry, Louis wrote the book on that. Just watch what he did. So that, actions speak louder than words, especially when they're consistent, especially over time, especially when other people who are independently corroborating a consistent, similar pattern, hands down, the actions of a very protective boyfriend. Because would you take the blows for someone that often? I mean, the whole time, even though management was saying you guys hated each other? No, you wouldn't. The only way someone would do that is either they would do it consistently for everyone, or they do it for one person, and that would be their special person. Okay. Two, because that was on for 6 years, like from the time Harry was 16 to 22, that's a formative developmental cycle. So because Louis was kind of over functioning in his overprotectiveness, which that happens, that's couples 101. The skill set that Louis was really sharpening, the tactician, the strategy, the ability to read numbers, the ability to kind of know when the timing of an opening was to have a difficult conversation with Psycho. He was strengthening that at an age where, when you strengthen it between 18 and 24, that is pivotal time, because that's before the prefrontal cortex, which holds executive function, matures. So could you just imagine how much he was poised once that final part of the brain matured to be even sharper? So on the other side is, if, because someone overfunctions for another, that other person, in this case Harry, didn't have the initiative to uh, develop it within himself. Now, yes, you can observe someone and then you can implement similar things if you've seen that person do it over and over again. But there are certain types of learning that is a scaffolding process where you're building upon, and it's a cumulative effect, right? Like, before you can run, you need to walk, right? That's scaffolding. And because there was this default system where Harry just let Louis take care of it, and Harry, you watch the early um, X Factor diaries, he really needs to be liked, and that's just how people are sometimes. But given what they were up against, it would have been easy to almost just let somebody take the reins and not learn those skills. So yeah, you can be observing, you can be watching, but you don't develop the timing, you don't develop the throwback, you don't develop the verbal recall, you don't develop any of that, because there are just some types of learning that you must do yourself. You have to do it, right? It's like learning to drive. You really just have to get behind the damn car. Okay. I talk from experience here. And because it was during very key developmental years, because of the overfunctioning that left, actually, there's a probability that left Harry at a deficit of being able to develop the kind of backbone and identity. Because when you are in the mid to late teens to early 20s, you are individuating. And even though Harry was away from his parents, Louis functioned kind of like that too. So this is why I could not imagine Harry leaving Louis, because if anything, he would be psychologically dependent, because I mean, 6 years is a damn long time. And that's a long time to entrain a habit of not being able to speak up and avoiding it, or if you're prone to people pleasing and wanting to be liked, being set up to be a yes man. And the needing to be liked is, it's a double-edged sword. So if you cannot assert yourself, if you have not gone through the fire of knowing, aggression and assertiveness not the same, and developing that social capital reputation of somebody that you don't fuck with because this person's sharp, which Louis appears to have developed. Harry didn't develop that. Harry developed the opposite as somebody who was very accommodating, kind of like eager to please. His vulnerability point is, oh, if I don't like you, right? It really bothers him because you have to learn to tolerate that sometimes people won't like you, but in the choice between being liked and respected, respect is much harder to earn, but much harder to lose. Being liked is a matter of, my fickleness. I could like you one day, hate you the next day, because I can respect someone I don't like. So this is why I believe that they are really still together. And there was somebody who said that they saw Louis in India for the Lollapalooza India, wearing a shirt from a Japanese designer. And it's a kind of label that you could only get in Japan. So this is how sharp you Larrys are. You guys are brilliant. I think you're brilliant because you watched Louis. That's my take. But the shirt that Louis wore from the Japanese designer, someone said that that's sort of subtle proof that Harry met up with Louis because the only way you could get that shirt is to be in Japan, buy it like when you're there and bring it back. So I could totally see that. But I I would say that they're not together because of codependency. I think that they're together just because there's a fusion in more on Harry's part. So if anyone has made somebody their entire world, I will bet, and hey, I don't know anything. I could be completely wrong, but I'm willing to bet more that it's Harry who's made Louis his whole world. It's Harry that would actually fall apart if Louis met his equal in another person that matched his intellect, matched his fortitude, matched his backbone, matched his conviction, matched his resilience, and his. If anything, Louis really developed his identity. So he was able to develop without the industry support, an entire, festival, label, uh, fan base that's very loyal to him, was able to, despite the odds, still persevere. And that is character. And also, you would have to really know who you are, because unless you're tested, you don't really know what you're capable of, right? And if you on the opposite end have always had things kind of handed to you, which I'm going to be honest, $20 million marketing budget and complete access, complete favor because he was cute. He had the most attention. They wanted basically to make money, makes sense. But the fact is, I don't see, and I have not found accounts of Harry just on his own volition, just as a person to support his bandmates. Like he has completely uh, extracted himself and cut off that part of his life. Like you don't see him congratulating Niall here, congratulating Louis there, but all the others were congratulating each other when they had a success or performance. And that again goes back to my point: is that tells you something. The only reason maybe that the other four will talk to him is as a favor to Louis. I don't know. That's my best take. But if Louis ever found his equal, someone who matched him, who had the same strength and left Harry, Harry would fall apart. Reverse,